Today we'll talk a little bit about the shadowing, and these slides are coming from one of my previous experiences since I joined Adobe. And this experience is related to shadowing our VP of engineering. It was in my first year at Adobe. It's an internal program facilitated by our colleagues. And since it was my first shadowing experience, I was pretty nervous, and I did my best to make sure that I have enough information and very prepared for this process. So I think looking now back, I realized that I put a lot of pressure on me at that moment, but I also wanted to make sure that I obtained the maximum from this opportunity. So I started to learn more about what does it mean to make shadowing. I started to search books, articles, tutorials, and so on. And after this experience happened, our VP mentioned to me that yes, indeed, I had a good process, and it will be a good idea to have a guide for my colleagues who will continue to do shadowing to other executives or other senior people. So that's how I started to formalize this process. And here in this presentation, you will see the learnings that I had from this experience, and I hope these things will help you also if you will have something similar. Just to have an idea about how this shadowing happened. It was, first of all, it was this matching between the person who will do the shadowing and the person that will be shadowed. And it was an initial one-on-one when we set up the expectation, when we set up how it should happen, this experience. I got a set of invites to different meetings where the VP was present. And at the end, it was a debrief session at the end of the experience. So it was an initial one-on-one, 5 or 7 meetings where I was shadowing, and a debrief session. So all the experience related here will be somehow in comparison with what happened there. So let's get started. For sure, shadowing, for me, it was an outstanding experience. I felt it like a masterclass in leadership and strategy and all the things that I had on my plate to address during that experience. And now thinking about the process, I realized that it's like mentoring plus plus, because indeed, in this case, I had the opportunity to ask questions, to see the perspective from the person who I shadowed, to get guidance on some specific topics that I had on my list, plus the fact that you see that person in action, and you are learning by seeing someone else doing those stuff. So that's why I consider that it's a mentoring plus plus. For sure, there is an entire set of advantages for doing shadowing. You have an enhanced skills. You will boost the confidence because you start to understand better the context of of the person who you are shadowing. You start to learn more, and you expand also your network, not only by being in contact with that person that you are shadowing, but also being in contact with the people who are in contact with your Shadowee. You could also focus on problem solving if this is a strength of that person. You actually get access to the all wisdom and all the knowledge that person has to offer. And for me, since I was just joining Adobe, it was a good opportunity to learn more about the culture from Adobe, to learn more about the products that we develop, and I felt an increased sense of belonging. And to make sure we are aligned on the definitions, I have here the Shadowee. So the Shadowee, when I'm talking about Shadowee, is the person or the executive or the senior leader or the senior individual contributor that is shadowed. And the shadower is the person who shadows the executive. And usually the shadower should drive the process. So this will be a little bit about the setup. And let's move on to the next part on the framework. I try to make sure that I find a way that is easy to replicate and easy to remember by other colleagues or people who are interested or who are exposed to this kind of experience. So that's how I created this framework, the ABC framework, which has 3 steps. The first one is about awareness. You start to learn about the Shadowee, the process, and yourself. The second one is a part about building, be present, involve, and follow your objectives through this experience. And the third one is related to consolidation, when you analyze, reflect, and spend some time on understanding what you have learned and how will you apply. And we will take each step of the framework one by one. The first one, the awareness. It's about learning about, it's pretty important to understand who will you shadow, and you need to do your research. In my case, I remember that I checked the LinkedIn of our VP. I started to search articles on the media. I started to search internal references in our internal wikis. Since this program where I participated was a pretty well-known one in Adobe Romania, I also started to learn from other people who shadowed our VP of engineering, and to learn from them what was helpful for them, what they missed, or what they would like to do different next time. So you need to have like a portfolio about that person to make sure you understand what are that person's strengths, what are the things that you could learn from that from your Shadowee. After that, I started to discover a little bit the process. It was the first time when I heard about this shadowing experience. Mentoring, I knew what does it mean. I also know about coaching, but shadowing was a different kind of process. So I started to read articles about what does it mean, how it will help you. And I remember I also found some books about this subject. Plus, I talked with my manager, and I tried to calibrate the expectations also through his eyes. I try to get from him some insights, or to understand from him what will be important to cover during this experience. The next part after you have the first one is to learn about yourself, and this is an ongoing process, I think, for each one of us. It's about understanding what we want to achieve from the shadowing experience. And I really enjoyed this quote from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. A dream without a plan is just a wish. So you need to have a plan. You need to have a set of expectations. You need to have a set of objectives. What you would like to achieve at the end of this experience. How will you measure if you achieve it or not? And based on these objectives, I also started to prepare a list of questions that I had opportunity to address to my Shadowee in the first session. So that's why I mentioned that it was like mentoring, because I had a predefined list of questions with the topics that I was interested in, and I addressed that list of questions from the beginning. And it was pretty important for me because only after the first session, I also got a lot of information that I was able to apply later on. And other than that, in that initial session, I also talked about logistic questions. Okay, so I will do this shadowing. I will participate at the meetings where you are. If I have questions, or if I don't understand something, or if I want to learn more about a specific topic or a specific product, how should I address those questions? What will be the process for you? And this is what it was important because, for example, for Chris Raudo, our VP of engineering, he mentioned that he would like to get them via email because Slack will be like an urgent matter for him. So we agreed that I will send the questions at the end of the day, and I'll do my best to provide the context to get the right answers. And I was pretty surprised to get the answers in less than half an hour since I sent the email. So it's important also to have this logistic part addressed, to have a smooth process and a clear set of expectations from both sides. And finally, before starting the experience, it's pretty important to review the list of meetings where you will be involved, where you are invited to shadow your Shadowee. And you need to make sure that these meetings are aligned with your objectives, with your expectations. For example, I remember in my case, it was I wanted to learn more about how to set up a strategy or how to address the psychological safety. So I try to make sure that in the list of the meetings I received in my calendar, those meetings are matching the expectations. And I remember that there was some elements that were missing, and I try to negotiate if it's possible to get other invites to some specific meetings, like a one-on-one with the stakeholder from another geography, or everything that is relevant for you in that case. So you need to make sure that you set up yourself for success by having all these 4 items. So you need to be aware about the entire setup, about the shadowing, about the process, about yourself, and also about what will happen during this shadowing experience. So that's pretty much about the awareness part. Now, the building part. Here it's about the experience of shadowing. And I split in here the content in 3 parts. What you will do, what you should do before a meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. And just to clarify, these are some guidelines. When I use need, it doesn't mean you need to do that. It's just the way I proceed and the way it worked for me. If you find another way, or if you take only a part of it, it will be amazing also. So before a meeting, when I received the invites, I did my best to make sure that they are very visible in my calendar. So I added a specific color for shadowing to make sure that I know when the next meeting is coming. And also it was important for me to know that I need to prepare for it and to have enough time. And before each meeting, I spent some time to see what is the title, what is the agenda, if there are any links added in the agenda, or maybe some documents attached, who are the participants, because it was important to set up a little bit the expectations and understand which objectives could be addressed, which objectives from my list could be addressed during that meeting. And I also try to be open-minded, to be aware about the fact that will not be only about those objectives. It's possible to also catch other things that are relevant and important in my context. During the meeting, I did my best to give my full attention. I was very present. I took notes. I tried to be very curious and to add a lot of questions on my notes to make sure that I will be able to address them later on with my Shadowee. And I also tried to add some keywords that were relevant to my objectives to make sure that after that will be easy for me to combine the information and put it in specific categories. So I did my best to be present and to take notes as much as possible, as many as possible. And after the meeting, usually I spend 10 to 20 minutes to review again the notes, make sure I extract the questions that I need to address to the Shadowee, and also to making sure that I'm aware about the areas that were addressed, or the things that I was learning in that session, or the things that I need to deep dive, maybe something about the product that I'm not aware of it. So, or any other topic that was unknown for me, it was put it on the notes. So this is the building. This is the running actually through the shadowing experience. And the last step is the consolidation. After the entire set of meetings was done, I mean, after all the meetings were finished, I took again all the notes and I tried to clusterize them based on the objectives that I had, based on the knowledge that I got. And also I started to review also the answers I got from the Shadowee via email. And I started to reflect on the lessons learned, and also I try to identify what will be the areas where I could start using those knowledge. And in my last one-on-one with the VP, with my Shadowee, I shared those lessons learned, the notes, and also I tried to clusterize them and make them very easy to be checked and to be viewed. And for sure, another important thing for the last session is to not forget to appreciate the time of your Shadowee and also the support, plus to ask if it's possible to stay in touch. So to summarize the framework, it was about awareness, learning about the Shadowee, learning about the process, learning about yourself, building, when you did your best to prepare yourself for those meetings where you are doing shadowing, and to be present, to be involved in the process and take as much as many notes that will be used after that, plus the consolidation when you try to combine all the information, extract the lessons learned, and extract also the things that you could apply in the future or even in the present. So the awareness building and consolidation. Like you mentioned already, maybe observed, somehow I focused a lot on the shadower, but what will be some tips and tricks for the Shadowee, or some high-level guidelines relevant for the Shadowee. This part of defining a code of conduct, because usually we have this bias of action. We just start the session, we just start the meeting, we just put the meeting in the calendar, and we hope that the best will happen. So it's important to have this structure in mind, to make sure that you have like a contract with your shadower. What happens if the shadower is not able to join the session, or what happens if you don't join that meeting, or how are you expecting to get or receive feedback, by which channel? Do you like it in written, or you prefer to be in a face-to-face meeting? Do we keep these objectives that the shadower will have at the beginning in a shared document, or on Slack, or via email? You need to have this structure. You need to have like a contract. This is the contract of our shadowing experience. Another important thing is to also wear the hat of a coach in some situations, because okay, the shadower will come to you with a set of objectives, and it's important to in the possibility of the time you have, understand the why behind those expectations. Be curious about your shadower, to understand exactly why they would like to learn about strategy, or what they would like to learn about how to make some decision in buying a third-party product, or whatever they have on their list. And make sure they also have a precise way to know if at the end of the experience they met or not that objective. So they need to have a way to measure, or at least to check if a part of the things were clarified or not. And also make sure that you are focusing on a continuous improvement mindset. Evaluate the relevance of the sessions. Evaluate the relevance of the resources maybe you are offering, or the recurrence of the sessions. Maybe they are happening too often, those meetings, and the shadower doesn't have enough time to prepare for those meetings, or if maybe some meetings are are no longer relevant for the objectives of the shadower. Make sure you are checking the status, and you are in a continuous improvement mindset, and evaluate this keep start, what we should keep start or stop doing in this shadowing experience, just to make sure that both of you spend this time wisely, and both of you get maximum from this experience. Because even for Shadowee, it's an experience and it's a learning opportunity. You could understand the perspective from another person, or you could see how that person asks questions about what you are doing, and you will be more mindful about the things you are doing. Because when you know that someone is watching you, you are more present, and you are more eager to do your best to make sure that you set up a good model for your shadower. Make time for shadowing. I hope this framework, the ABC of shadowing, was helpful for you. I hope you will get inspired. And I'm here for questions or any other things you would like to add.